Greetings Ronin, FiOth here, and in this video we will be breaking down the combat system of Rise of the Ronin. From what I saw before the game even came out, people simply don't understand how this system is supposed to work. So we're gonna take a moment to analyze the basics, some of the more advanced features and how everything ties together leading up to the stance system. The stance system in this game is the biggest catalyst when it comes to how every weapon will function, and if you don't get a grasp of that, you will be wondering why this weapon seems to be very weak, whilst that weapon seems to be very strong, and so on and so forth. No flashy stuff here at the beginning, I'm just gonna explain the bare bone basics, and then we'll move in some snippets of gameplay whilst I explain the most advanced features. First and foremost, your basic combo. Your combo is tied to your stance, and you will start getting stances once you visit Yokohama at the beginning of the game. So for example, right now I'm using the Aisukage Ryu. This has 3 abilities on it from the get-go, and I think it was part of the pre-order bundle. I'm gonna demonstrate its combo. Input 1, input 2, 3, and 4. So this is an 8 attacks combo, and someone might think, well, if it's 8 attacks instead of my starting 3 attacks with the katana, this is probably the better combo. But that is simply not true. The damage you're able to deal in a sequence of attacks before you're open to retaliation is divided more or less amongst the attacks that share a specific damage pool. So, for example, an Odachi will deal heavy damage with its fewer blows than a katana stance like this with a longer string of hits. So here's an Odachi with a starting stance of the game, and I'm gonna perform a combo. That's a 4-hit combo, and as you can probably imagine, it's not like the Odachi will deal less damage than the katana, it will just deal its damage with fewer attacks. Once again. Now what you saw me do here is the Blade Flash, and Blade Flash is probably the most important factor that people don't really understand in the game. It has 2 characteristics that have to be understood. One is the key recovery when you do it. So here I'm gonna just do my combo and then do the flash, and as you saw, I did not recover any ki whatsoever. Why is that? This follows through with the second characteristic, and you can see some gameplay here, the blood gauge. Now the blood gauge is something that the game half explains. Whilst you're fighting, your blade accumulates blood. That should be a bad thing normally, because as is historically known, when grease and blood accumulated on your blade, the blade became less sharp and thus less effective. When you blade flash with blood on your weapon, the amount of accumulated blood will be relevant to how much ki you will recover by cleaning it off. So if you are in the middle of a big string of attacks and then you do a blade flash, you will throw all the blood off of your blade and recover a big chunk of ki. If you have less blood on your blade, the blade flash will be less effective. This explains why perks like this, like blood gauge up, now make sense, doesn't it? Because if it was just a perk that made your weapon less effective faster, it wouldn't really amount to anything positive for you. It would just be a debilitating effect. But you accumulate more blood faster, and then if you are on top of your game with the blade flash, you are able to recover more ki. Counter sparks is not really something that I should go into much detail about. It can pretty much deflect everything. According to what kind of attack you are deflecting, you'll have a different counter-attack animation. If you are attacked with elemental projectiles, you will get the element of that projectile on your weapon for a limited amount of time. The purpose of this is for you not to get pulverized by attacks, and because blocking is not the safest way to go and usually depletes your ki very fast, you should be focusing on counter sparks. It is the main means of attack of the game. What got many people confused, I think, is the fact that it is tied to your triangle button instead of the block button, like let's say Sekiro. So you have to get used to using a dedicated sparks button in order to deflect stuff. Here I want to draw your attention to the initiation part of combat. Many people have been playing this game the way they played the first Neo game, where stealth was somewhat restrictive unless you were going full ninjutsu with invisibility. This game is more akin to Wulong than Neo. Okay, initiating with stealth and taking enemies out with backstabs and projectiles will make your life that much easier. Tying into this, you wanna invest as soon as possible into the dexterity's pillar skill. The rapid assassination allows you to assassinate 2 enemies in quick succession. This will pretty much allow you to surprise one enemy, and then whilst the other enemy is cowering, you can take them out as well before they can retaliate. If you go into the strength skill tree, you can find the speechcraft intimidate on the second row here. As you can see, it states gives you the option to intimidate your interlocutor during conversations. At a level 2, it states that it increases the amount of times enemies remain cowering. Cowering will come from a variety of sources. You can deflect a projectile and an enemy will cower. You can kill an enemy with a critical and an enemy will cower. You can kill a boss in a group and an enemy will cower, or they can stumble on the corpses of their allies and they will be in a cowering state. When they are in a cowering state, they're pretty much open for you to go in for the kill, so investing in this is not as redundant as it might seem because it's tied to the dialogue option. Going into the intellect tree early will allow you to purchase the craft bolstering medicine. It is the most basic of crafting skills, will allow you to create pills that will bolster your attack, your ki management, and so on and so forth. So investing just 1 point into this to get it going is a really good investment. If you are wondering how the hell you're gonna get those intelligence points and charm points and dexterity points and strength points, they usually come from either specific sources or after you complete an area. The advanced bonuses you will be getting are tied to these advanced skill points. So don't worry about it very early in the game. If you're still in the first area, you're not missing out of anything, you haven't misunderstood anything. It's just a matter of time before these points start pouring in, and you have to invest them wisely. As with all the Team Ninja games, if you run out of ki, you will be open to whatever attack the enemy has in store for you. So pay attention to that bar, execute your blade flashes, be careful with your counters, and once you get into the flow of combat, it will totally make sense and you'll have a much better experience. I've been playing on Twilight for about 8 hours now, and things have just started to click in for me. Granted, I'm a veteran of Team Ninja's games, and it does take some getting used to, guys. It's not as straightforward as, let's say, Wulong was. Pay attention and make sure you don't spam. Not spamming attacks and actually going in with a plan will make the difference between failing and succeeding. Your stances can be found here in the equipment tab. If you pre-ordered the game, you will have more of these available as soon as you reach Yokohama. If you haven't pre-ordered, if you don't have the deluxe, you will incrementally unlock everything. Nothing is lost to you if you didn't get those editions or didn't pre-order the game. You just have to have a weapon that is compatible with a stance in order to be able to equip it. So for example, I have a katana here, I go into stances and I go to the katana style page. As you can see here, I can have up to 3. If you go here on the Nodachi, I can click on these empty slots, and I don't have any more stances for the Nodachi specifically. I will eventually get them. If I change to an oxtail blade, I have my available stances for the ox blade tail weapon. So you increase your knowledge of them by performing specific actions like getting your bonds with specific individuals stronger, fighting enemies, defeating specific outlaws, and so on and so forth. I know the leveling up system seems a bit convoluted, but what the game guarantees pretty much is if you keep doing stuff, and that stuff can be pretty much anything apart from just picking up the feathers of chicken and shit, you will be getting progress in some shape or form. So combat exploration and secondary objectives will always net you something, and eventually that something will turn into progress for your fighting skills. So we pretty much covered the combat system of Rise of the Ronin. You can watch this video if you want the best settings to improve your experience on all fronts. Subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell. Until next time, be well, stay frosty, and always strive for perfection. Cheers!